Welcome to Tavern Talks. Gather around, travelers. Welcome to Tavern Talks, to the video podcast where Game Masters and TTRPG content creators from around the world share their secrets, stories, and expertise on crafting the perfect tabletop role-playing game sessions. So in this cozy virtual tavern, we'll be sitting down with experts, GMs to swag tales, trade tips, and dive into the art of creating unforgettable TTRPG experiences. So from world building to NPC crafting, from session preps to improvisation, we'll cover it all. So join us today and grab a pint of your favorite virtual ale, pull up a chair, and join the conversation in this episode. What are we going to do is really, really something special, because we are going to meet with someone that is creating a unique TTRPG game, and that hailed from
Norway.
today. How are you, Far?
Hey, thanks, Amir. I'm really good. So I'm really honored by being here. So appreciate it. I love the way you drive your channel, and I wish it all health and wealth. And let's grow this hobby together.
Thank you so much. So really, really appreciate it, and thank you to joining my video, our video. So it's our video right now, and I have a hard time pronouncing the tabletop RPG that you're creating, but no problem. You got English names as well, so Silverheart and so on. So what I really want to know is, first of all, who is Karl Otto? Okay,
Hey,
and you go by he, or what's your pronoun?
he, him. That's good.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, he, him. Okay, so who is he? Who is Karl Otto?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, my name is Karl Otto Kristoffersen. I'm from Norway. I'm 36 years old, married with 2 kids. So it's a busy life of a regular day.
Oh,
The author of 2 Norwegian published RPG. This one, Kvad, which is about Vikings.
look at that artwork, man. That's great artwork there. I really
This guy and my friend Evan, he has actually worked for Blizzard and all of the big names, so he is more point. And then the second publishing is Silverheart or Silverheart. Yeah,
shit.
it's also yeah. This was published this year, actually, in 2024. And last thing about me, I'm a part-time owner, or one of the owners of like a friendly local game store called Manaheim here in the city where I live. So try to facilitate the RPG hobby in my hometown as well.
So you really busy, huh? You're running oh my god. Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, how you're right time and you creating your TTRPGs? I mean, how it's possible?
Yeah, it's a good question. So yeah, it's a hard act actually to balance it all because I have to be a dad, I have to be an employee, I have to be a partner. So yeah, it's hard, but yeah, I don't play too much actually. Like maybe I play one game every month or so, or even less on average. Or I do love this hobby, so I consume RPG media every day. I listen to podcasts like yours. I read blogs. I just read on Discord. So I guess a lot of consumption, but and I try to write something each week. Uh, yeah, it's hard, and I think a lot of people can relate as well.
But that's awesome, and I really appreciate it, because in TTRPG hobby, like all people have different interests and things to do in their usual daily life, and it's really hard to focus on other things. Even especially like in TTRPG community, it's not that much of easy to make money on. So I totally understand it. So I really appreciate it, and having a family and having a business going on, and also creating something. Oh my god, like that's a lot. But thank you for your passion in this hobby, because gave us two new books, two nice books, and hopefully, hopefully, Silverheart is not in English right now, right?
No, that's correct. But next year, late next year, it should be.
Hopefully. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that as well. So, first question. So, how you got into tabletop role-playing games, TTRPGs?
Yeah. So I've always loved stories ever since I was a kid. I loved it in schools. Watched or I read the like comics like Conan the Barbarian and stuff like that. However, I think the Lord of the Rings movies like in 2001, and from there, I was really really getting into the fantasy genre, and that actually got me doing LARPing. Live action role playing games, running around in the first weapons and stuff. So I started out there for quite a few years, and then I was introduced to D&D 3.0 and 3.5 around 2005, and fell in love with the hobby and have been role playing ever since. Played from 2005 until 2015. I played different variants of D&D. I didn't really know that there was a lot of other systems or games, but when I discovered that there were other systems and games, it didn't take a lot of time before I figured that I wanted to start to write my own. And that was the beginning of my system that eventually turned into Kvad. It took me about 5 years. So from 2016, I decided to write the game, and then in 2021, it was published. Yeah.
Purple. Okay, so that's a great story actually too, because people usually stuck with D&D and or stuck with LARP and do not even move their foot on outside or do not just create something new. So that's really something to appreciate. So what sparked your interest, especially in for example in creating your own TTRPG? So why, for example, why? Who about creating it?
Yeah. I think a part of being a dungeon master, you're already starting to become like a small kind of game designer, because you do these certain tweaks into your games, you create small rules, you create some NPCs, you create some origin stories, etc. And then eventually that grew, I guess, and I felt that I eventually built the confidence and maybe the skill set to believe that I could do it as well. Um, Although the catalyst moment was when I went to one other like friendly local game store in our capital, Oslo, and then I saw a Norwegian game called the Vandrerne, which is like the Wanderers, and it's made and self-published by a guy called Øyvind Stengrune, and it's made in a way that is really really nice, very aesthetically easy on the eye, and not too complex. And that actually made me believe that, wow, this guy could do it. I can do it too. So I sent him an email and pitched some ideas, and he was really positive and like he cheered on me. And from there, I felt like I got the encouragement that I needed, and I started on my own journey. So important lesson from that is that cheer on other people, because it means a lot. It means the world. So if I didn't get like the positive affirmation at that point, maybe I wouldn't have started at all. So yeah, that's important.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that means that we found our next guest. That's a really long story because I really believe that people should like help each other in this hobby because we're just so few people there. Like not even just I'm talking in Turkey general on people like in my country, or I'm not even just talking about the United States as I'm living there. I'm talking about as a hobby in general. We just feel so few people, and we need more creations and unique creations as well, like yours. So um okay, so what inspired you actually was like your hobby hobby of TTRPGs and your passion to create something. I got that part, but how did you prepare for your like first few pages, and what sparked your interest there, or like I get why, but how actually this is less happening.
Yeah, it's a good question. More down to the specifics. Well, I do remember that I wanted to prove for myself that I could make my own system. So I kind of shopped different systems from other games and tried to mash them into my own. Um, Although I also have to admit that the first 2 or 3 years, I was chasing the idea of creating kind of a universal role-playing game that could match all genres. I didn't know actually that it existed. Like, was it called GURPS or? Yeah, there's like different systems that already do that, and I didn't know. So I believe that I could do it. So then it was bringing up pretty much the just the word like a writing program and try to actually starting to steal systems and subsystems other games, and then collecting them, and then eventually trying to somehow mash them together. So I really stole a lot of things before it kind of slowly mutated into its own thing. Started because, yeah, I didn't know how to create from the beginning, so then I used other creations and went from there. Yeah.
So that's really pretty valuable because you said that I was trying to build something like a system agnostic system or something universally applicable system. And I realized that it was not the case, or it shouldn't be. I have to be more um specific, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty valuable because people when started this hobby, or I mean TTRPG creation, they usually start with something more universally acceptable or like applicable to all kind of systems or scenarios. But actually that doesn't mean that it has to be, or that doesn't mean that it is the thing that you have to do. There are lots of actually system agnostic systems, but you know what I mean. So so from going on there, so
Yeah.
you experienced any kind of well, or have you ever decided or made any kind of a mistakes and you changed change later on? I mean, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced as a new TTRPG content creator, and how did you overcome them? That's what I mean.
Yeah, I made mistakes all the time. Rolled hot, and then had I tested them with some friends, a small group of friends that I trusted, because it is hard to kind of expose your creativity, because it's scary, you know. How will other people feel about my creation? And that, yeah, it's scary. So I had gathered like a core group of friends that I trusted, like emotionally and on a game level, and then we played a lot, and then they provided feedback, and then also they read the manuscript and provided feedback. And from like each time we tested, I deleted like 90%, kept my baby that I really wanted to stick with, and then that worked for everyone, and then went from there. So the hardest thing was to not give up, really, because a lot of times after we tested some games, and you know they were honest in a good way, it uh, you can start to question yourself, like, why am I doing this, or am I good enough? But yeah, just don't give up, I guess, and keep going, and dare to be exposed creatively, dare to get feedback, and believe that others want to give you feedback for you to grow and not to destroy you. So mm, yeah, that was very important. I couldn't have done this alone, even though I was driving the process alone. I couldn't have done this alone at all. I needed this tight group of friends, and yeah, to help me move forward.
Mhm.
Huh.
So playtesting is crucial, and playtesting with right person, right people, right team, right crew is the most important part of your journey. So, do you have any kind of like a moment that you remember, especially about these playtesting sessions that got you frustrated or like make you think that I am not good enough or something?
Sure. I mean, that was a lot of times. But on the other side, I actually, with this question, I remember one of the game sessions that we had, we used a kind of a prototype, it was 3 years in or something, a prototype of the system that I have now. And we were able to conduct or to play through a game where we used kind of the social mechanics, and we never drew steel or killed anyone. We were able to like navigate with the social encounters. That was an incredible moment who kind of sparked self-esteem rather, or me wanted to go on. So yeah, that was the total opposite of what you asked, but I think that a lot of times I felt kind of down after games, but this particular moment was really important to drive the momentum forward. So yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind, at least.
So that's nice, really, because I never give up was the best sentence I ever heard of for a long time. Because never give up because it's a hard thing to create something new.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's absolutely is, and yeah, eventually that when just to kind of continue with the Kvad, the development story, which is the one that we're on. Um, as I mentioned, it started out as like a generic engine that we're supposed to do everything. But like 2-3 years in or something like that, maybe even more, I came back to the roots in a way. I was happy with the mechanics, but it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't specific enough. So then I decided that I wanted to make it a Viking game, and that I wanted to write a Viking game in Norwegian. So then I kind of threw away the idea of international Kickstarter with big success and all that stuff, and I wrote the game that I wanted to create, not for everybody else. So I chose more like uh, that I enjoyed, and that helped me, uh, I feel at least, lift the game mechanics and make it more specific. So I could give one example. So in the Norse mythology, or in like the sagas, I have this meaty boy like here, the King's Sagas, which is from like the 1100s or something like this. I wrote a lot of it. No, sorry, I read a lot of it, and in the Norse mythology, you have these fate norms that kind of weave your fate. And I had figured, how can I use this in the game? So, for example, we can make age matter by doing deals with the norms, for example. So, how a kind of sacrifice your age, your lifespan. You can live shorter by uh, increasing the success in the moment, by being able to reroll in the moment. So the way the reason, the mechanic part isn't that interesting, but that is a way that the specific theme helped me enhance the gaming experience and make it more like a focused gaming experience that I wanted. So uh, I think what I'm trying to say is that the second lesson here is that if you don't have any direction to kind of guide your gaming process, it's hard to know what kind of mechanics you should apply. However, if you have an idea of where you want to go, it is easier to navigate toward that and create and craft something that applies to that specific theme. That's the lesson, I guess.
Thank you so much. So your inspiration was Norse mythology, and of course, let's say that your roots, your history, and your country in the
Yeah,
Alps, right? And were there any other existing games or genres or something that influenced your design in this game? Like, I mean, we will talk, of course, for both of your games, but or you can answer this question for both of your games and your the other creations. But so, like, what influenced you and what inspired you actually, other than Norse mythology, of course.
Well, yeah. Do you mean in a general term, or do you mean specifically for the Kvad Viking project?
Let's look for Kvad.
Yeah, sure. So actually, I have to pick up the book now and look into my inspiration pages. Yeah, so I listed some films and series like Vikings, HBO, Game of Thrones, the Third Warrior as a film. And then from literature, there's a multitude of, I guess, books. Arn, the Temple Knight, some Norwegian stuff. And in terms of games, I was inspired by Ironsworn, Blades in the Dark, Burning Wheel, Miseries and Misfortunes, Saga of the Icelanders, Petra, etc., etc. So, mash of different inspirations. So, both in terms of literature, books, films, role playing games, a few podcasts, etc. The key takeaway there is to look broader than only reading RPGs, but consume different kinds of media to get inspired.
Hmm. So, okay, a lot of inspirational list. That's what I love really, because first it's honest, because we took inspiration from everything that we see, we live through an experience, and then that's what makes us us, and what makes us valuable. So but what about the things, or what makes your TTRPG system unique compared to others on the market, let's say, or other similar games?
Sure, yeah, it's a real good question. So, from like the Kvad game, the Viking game I guess unique in its own right because it's a Viking game written by a Norwegian with kind of historical roots and who have actually read a lot of the source material and tried to harness a game that facilitates the experience of living in the Viking era, like in the 900s, thousands. And I think one of the I guess killer acts of this game is that Kvad means Norse poem. So there were like skalds who were experts at telling or writing poems in the Viking era.
Like
And that,
bard, right?
sorry,
Like bards in.
absolutely, 100%, yeah. And then that is the reason why this game is called Kvad is because you play a saga hero, you go out, do a quest to do a honorable deed, and when you succeed, you get some rules to write a poem to summarize what you just have done, and then yes, so that as you collect verses, and the longer your story becomes, you kind of get to the proceed to eventually have your own saga. Saga is like the greatest, and then you have different layers. So you're pretty much playing a Viking game to write your own legacy that will last forever. So
So
that's
does it feels like playing Beowulf, like Danish hero, right?
and then Silverheart game is unique in its own right because it's super simple. It's more like a historical point crawl, and it's used in schools today. It was written for schools, and for I've done courses for teachers who now are applying this for the kids in schools. And this is really just a D6 roll high, you succeed, roll low, you don't. That's it. So there's no need for explanation for the kids. They automatically understands it. And I also play tested this at school, so it works perfectly. Now, what makes it that, again, I actually documented the amount of hours that I used on this project, and I spent about 630 hours in about, 1 year, 12, 13, 14 months. So, so I started with the idea late 2022, and it was published early 2024. So, about 600 plus hours. The game is just unique because of its historical content, and that I read a lot of source material that are presented in a pretty, I guess, accessible way. So,
Would you balance simplicity for new players with depth for experienced players in it's so hard to pronounce, but sorry. What was the first one's name? Kvad.
Kvad.
Kvad. Yeah, Kvad. Would you balance simplicity?
So if I understood the question correctly, how accessible it is for
No, how did you balance the simplicity uh for new players with the depth for experienced players? Like, I mean, like, yeah, for like, is it playable for like every level of TTRPG gamers, or just for the experienced ones? Or
Yeah, I think for Kvad it's a bit more complicated. It has a bit more parts in its machinery, and also it has to do when I created it. I also wanted to prove myself as a game designer, so I deliberately created it with quite a few bits and pieces that all works together like a Swiss watch. So it's all a nice machinery, but has a little it requires a little bit more of effort to kind of get system, and that is by design. But also it's a lot of nuance, I think. On the other hand, the Silverheart game is for it's everyone can access it very easily immediately. So I played it with elderly people. I played it with kids. I played it with my parents and brothers. Never played an RPG before. My mother, who's don't like to watch violence on TV, she shot a few NPCs. It's
are playing with Rhino at their schools, and they played, or of course, on their playing is at their schools. So, how did you manage that? Like for schools, it's really hard to adapt these new things, new way of teaching. So,
yeah,
what's behind it?
sure. So, in order to kind of get access to the school market, it has a short backstory on that. This year in 2024, Kongsberg, this city, is 400 years old. Oh, like celebration year. Yeah, so it was established in 64. And with that, there's a lot of, or not a lot, but there's some money from the county, like a project group, to kind of use in this year, in for different projects. And I pitched this idea in late 2022 and said that, hey, I have done a Viking RPG from before. I believe that I can do another, but a lot simpler and for kids for this year. So what do you say? And they were really on it, and we had a conversation and kind of shaped the development. And then I just wrote it. We had different projects every month, so they could tell me, yeah, you're doing good, or you should simplify or whatever. And then eventually it was published in February 24. In terms of the deal, I also didn't only print the books, but I also promised to do a 1 full day class for a lot of teachers, or 12 teachers or so, from 3 different schools, to kind of teach them the method of how to do this, how to create a character, how to run the game. And it's a very traditional game. But because of its simplicity in terms of just rolling a d6, it's very intuitive. And because of some rules that I have also stole, of course, from somebody else, you are able to play this in a classroom with about 30 students. And I'll just give it away immediately, and that is using groups. So, and it's not revolutionary, but for me, it was like a aha moment. So instead of having, or just like a group where you have 6 characters in front of you and you are the GM, now you have still 6 characters, but behind each character is a 3 or 4 players who rotate kind of to be the caller or to be the voice of the character. And for different moments, they can also kind of have a group discussion of where they want to go next. So that way everybody is involved at some level at all times. So I think that was a very clever move, and I decided to use it, and yeah, it works.
That's really nice because it's really hard to apply the RPG models in the classroom because of first there are lots of students, and second there isn't enough time. So yeah, it has to be short, applicable game. So okay, so I got actually 2 questions first before asking about TTRPGs and education in general. But so what kind of combat or conflict resolution systems do you offer in your both systems? And also, how do you handle non-combat encounters as well? So for like a diplomacy, persuasion, deception things and stuff like that. That's my 2 questions here.
Yeah, sure. So we'll start with the latter since we're already talking about the Silverheart. So there, again, the D6 applies. Roll high, you succeed. Roll low, you don't. Although there are, of course, a few nuances. You also have each character have one special skill that they always will succeed on. Always. However, they still need to roll the dice. And if they roll high, they succeed without consequences. And if they roll low, they succeed with consequences. The
If they're scared roll.
Yeah, no, yeah. So if there's a kind of a play, so the GM in that matter do not roll the dice at all. It's only the player who rolls to kind of decide. Yeah. If there's a player versus player situation, they just roll the dice, and whichever rolls the highest wins. I decided to keep it at that level because of it's designed to be in the school situation, so very kind of easy to understand. So that goes with all situations. So combat, climbing, navigating. If we want to roll the dice, maybe it's not necessary to roll the dice at all. It's more like an OSR kind of game in that way, that conversation is the most important thing, and then you roll the dice. It's unclear.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially in the education environments, conversation in the
Conversation, most important aspect. So for Kvad, the Viking game, it's a dice pool system where all 3 dice, like you combine skills and abilities and items and stuff like that. And then you want to get between 1 and 3 to get a success. So roll low. Means, of course, that a D4 is the best die because it's a 75% probability of success that other dice. And also the 20 is the poorest dice pool system will try to get low, and then you are trying to get as many successes as possible. Whereas 1 is fairly easy and 5 is very, very hard, because you now have a theoretical problem that you have 3 dice and want to get 5 successes on 3 dice. But you can surpass that by kind of re-rolling or doing a critical if you roll a 1. And there's also a few other rules like burning your lifespan, burning your age, and to re-roll dice that you miss on and stuff like that. That also goes to all situations. So the Scald, the GM, it provides a target number or a challenge number between 1 and 5, and then the player roll against that. That's the basics, I guess.
So okay, there are nice touches and nice system design, and also both of them has its own purposes and their own targets. So definitely understandable. So what about your thoughts on TTRPG on education, and also like how much is it applicable, and is it really needed, or what are your thoughts, and especially what were your let's say that experiences with your system being played in classroom setting. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely not needed for a team. Absolutely not needed because they can do a lot of cool creative things to teach kids history, and I think it's very kind of rare to utilize RPGs in class. So obviously they don't have to, but I believe sincerely that it is a nice tool in the toolbox. And also um, the kids are experiencing a lot of additional effects, and the teachers are experiencing a lot of additional effects, as we are very well aware of. You train not only you're not only playing a game, you're training like the social dynamics, to talk when you get listen up, be supportive of other decisions, creative problem solving. So it provides a lot of benefits in a classroom outside of the actual teaching. Now, with the teaching aspect, I think the most important thing about this game is that it facilitates focused conversation about a certain topic. All the tables in the game that you can roll on are like happenings or conflicts or situations are all based from different historical sources. So whatever happens in the game that we are talking about is harnessing some kind of conversation about this particular time period, and that is important stuff, that we actually engage, we use the words, we're not only like passively consuming, we're actively engaging in this topic. And whether with which is with whether it's with a lot of dice rolling or not, it doesn't really matter. It's designed to be very simple, so the dice rolling is only in the background and kind of shaping the path of the conversation. But the primary thing is to have that focused conversation about this particular topic. And yeah, I believe RPGs are a very good way of doing.
I used to I mean, when I try to like explain older people, especially about the TTRPGs in like common and formal education settings, why we should use that and what do we achieve? I always use that phrase, that those things are like debate with extra steps and much more creativity. So people are debating, but like extra more steps like dice and stuff, like cards and stuff like that. And then you're just thinking and being in the moment, not just like reading a history book, or not just like writing something down. It's just living it. Like, oh my God. Okay, it does.
Oh, oops. Oh, sorry.
So you, one of your system really do help people to understand and the specific settings of Norse mythology and their culture and history, of course, for the Norwegians people that were there, and also for us, of course, as non-Norwegians, and uh, specifically the history and the culture, the perfect history and culture behind. So, um, also, how did you approach making the game accessible to a wide range of players? And are there any tools or options included for how to say that, like accommodating neurodivergent players or those with disabilities? Do you have any tools or something like that? Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah, it's a good question as well. So, um, the uh, the Silverheart game, at least, is as I think accessible as it can be, just because of its mechanical baseline, because it's very simple. Although I've had some conversations about with different people on how to kind of apply accessibility with this game, but yeah, I mean, I, I cannot reach everyone, let's say. So let's say that if there is a player that is deaf but cannot hear, I'm not sure how to handle that, for example. So I'm not saying that this game solves a lot of those kind of issues, but it's accessible to majority of people, I believe, just because of its simplicity. And if you're able to have a kind of have a conversation, then you are good to go. Yeah.
But do you have like a safe and respectful play standards, like safety tools or something, to like to recommend to the players and teachers also? Like,
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I write a little bit about it. But it's in the Kvad game, the Viking game, I spent more pages to describe that, because I was afraid that like right wing the people were going to kind of misuse the game. At, and so I spent more pages to write about those kind of safety tools and yeah, those kind of things. But for the Silverheart game, I wrote a little bit about it, but not too much. But the basis is, be kind to each other, be inclusive, a few player and GM principles on how to behave, and then yeah, it should be fine. So um, it shouldn't be like a big speech of
oh, yeah.
before going into the game. So it should be pretty lighthearted. But I know, just to your point, I know there are a lot of great safety tools available online. So I highly recommend using those if you want to. But from my experience until now, it's really just let's all behave, and if there's anything uncomfortable or that let's pause for a minute, like slide
Mhm.
launch at I used to say, and just tell people in advance like what this game is about. That you might touch upon some sex, or you might touch upon some violence. Are we comfortable with these kind of things? And if not, that's fine, and let's go from there.
To remind people that's still a game. That's a game. Yeah, that's lots, of course. So, do you like? Okay, are there any plans for expansions or supplements? So, what kind of content will they include? And like a digital tools guide, community things, or new books? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I really wish. I have a few ideas, of course. I work with so both games are coming in English. That's the first thing. So we're expanding from like the small Norwegian market up till the global audience, and I think it might hopefully it hit a nerve that it could be. Yeah, a lot of people might find it interesting. At least Vikings. Uh,
Hmm.
so that's like the first thing. And in terms of expansions, it would be really cool to do some adventure books, pretty much, or for the Kvad game to see outside of the kind of fictive Scandinavia, or the like the analog. analogy for Scandinavia that we have here, to go to Constantinople or go to other, like England, or go to other places and kind of explore those. Also for Silverheart, the same idea applies, just to write more adventures and maybe some digital character creation pick. I think that would be great. So like a one click, and then you have a character to make it very like accessible. So, but key things, English next year.
Oh, so okay. My next question is, do you have a secret sauce? I mean, how do you create those RPGs? Like for example, like I always use blah 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 technique, or I always use this to implement a new TTRPG mechanic, or I do this specially. What's your secret?
Wow, good question. I think actually the first thing that comes to mind is to the going back to what I mentioned earlier, to try at least to be very specific in where you want to go.
Uh-huh.
The audience, what's is it for beginners or for advanced players, kind of? Is it, what kind of genre is it? And um, how accessible should it be? How complicated? And then go work from there. So that at least an important part in my process now, to kind of identify how the mechanics should be, and like the amount of word and texts, and that part. Other than that, like the thing, try to write regularly. Only by writing you will find what you're looking for. You know, the analogy of the the artist who's kind of working at a piece of stone, and in his mind he can see the statue. Won't see the statue before you have done the work. So you actually have to put in the hours and accept that it's not always good. You just get time every week, at least 1 hour every week, to be consistent and to get the work done. So, and that also goes then back to not give up. So just continue, and one small step at a time towards the identified goal. And then your path will be a bit rocky, but you will get there. Absolutely. When you are ready, you go to see your close friends and bring them along. And when you're getting even closer to your goal, you reach out to a wider audience and then get more feedback from them. And yeah, eventually you will get there. So I get actually that touched upon all of the highlights from the conversation previously.
That would be great, really. So, one more question. If you could go back and change just one thing about the development process that you have for both games, what would it be?
I wish for my first game that I found my path earlier, that I didn't just mess around for 3 years, I guess, before I figured that it wanted to be Norwegian and about Vikings. And for the second game, I wish that I had, well, it's not about the process, but I wish that I had even a bit more time, because there are, of course, a few things that I wish that were a bit different, but I was under a obvious time constraint at the end. Yeah, so a bit more time. That's just the bird came to mind.
We can always wait for your second edition book, no problem. Of course.
But thought about that. So my English publication there will be a revised version where I add the few things that were cut out from the first one, and it will be just a tiny notch better than the first edition. Even though I'm pretty happy.
So, okay, so that there are nice projects coming and nice translation projects as well, or localization, let's say. So, when we see the future of your both TTRPG system, or your, like, in next 5 or 10 years, let's say?
For the current ones or for future projects, you mean?
Well, let's say both, because I've got both for current ones and the future ones, of course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For the current ones, I just hope we're able to properly translate and publish into the global audience, and that it would be really fun if I one day met a person in my hometown who came here because of Silverheart, because of they have read Silverheart and came here because of that. Because as you maybe know, the black metal music is really big in Norway, a big cult, and a lot of people come to Norway because of black metal kind of this. If I ever were to have one person who came to Kongsberg because of Silverheart, that would be the ultimate achievement.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully, let's cross fingers for that. Now, and for future projects, yeah, I have several projects that I am looking into do. Some like some more the World War II. We had a lot of resistance fighters to actually try to make a game about those and maybe collaborate with like a veterans organization or something. I'm a veteran myself, so I think I have a burning heart for those kind of things. And of course, a fantasy heartbreaker, like a big fantasy game I have in mind. Yeah, I have several projects in mind. So yeah, I hope we are able to continue writing. I really love this kind of hobby. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, as for Tavern Talks, we're nearing to end, and I really, really thank you for coming here and for this interview, because I really do appreciate your works, and also I really do appreciate like your creations and your in this hobby. So we have to provide to the community new books and stuff and anything to play, and only that will help us to to build and play more and have fun. So, do you have anything to add or want to talk about or something or more to add?
Uh, oh, I've been talking about myself for all these conversations, so I'm really happy. I'm just would like to thank you so much for for taking the time to host this conversation. And actually, I have one question. Where do you see your channel in 10 years? Or like, what have you contributed to the hobby with? I mean, your thoughts about the future?
Thank you. Thank you for asking this. So, I am planning to, of course, interview more content creating TTRPG hobby. Because I want, especially in people in Turkey, but especially, of course, people in globally, wants to know that there are lots of more different peoples that are trying to issue something and create more and more in this TTRPG hobby. Because, for example, uh, you created your book in Norwegian, so I'm not able to read that, and I don't have time to use a translator. But
Oh,
I can read it if it's in English, and in order to be in English, you have to make money. So in order to you to make money, we have to know you beforehand. So that's why I value this interview process, this idea that sparked my interest, because anywhere or wherever you live, I want to interview with you people, to let's say, promote your works and to read about you, to know about you, and to you to know about me and my friends, because we are also creating systems and working on some one pagers, some like bigger game projects. So we're currently working on a system with RPG system with just a blackjack play with blackjack mechanics, and it called Sanity 21. Actually, it has some 20 or 30 pages in try to RPG, but I'm gonna revise it like and edit it lore or something. So don't buy it yet. Even it's on sale.
amazing.
I'm gonna let you all know that we will very publish it again. So hopefully, like, we're gonna have some more people here, and hopefully and help them to at least promote their valuable work, because I really believe that that the creations of people like you are really valuable, because not just for the sake of the creating it, just because it gives us something more to play, and it's something more to play as coming from independent publisher, independent people, not just like a Wizard of the Coast, not just the people that literally don't care about us. If I see something, I
Yeah. Thank you. Now thank you so much. I got about everything about what you said, and the final two sentences you were silent. So now I cannot hear you. Nope. It's all good. No. Nope. Still not. But there we go.
keep Ready? Perfect. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, I cannot talk to the people like Wizard of the Coast, but I can talk to you, and you're creating whatever work. And if I don't like something, or if I see something, I can say something. So
Yeah.
that's why, that's why you as a people, I mean, the content creators, or in the publishers, or in the creators, in the authors, are valuable in terms of our community. So I really thank you, and thank all of you creators in general for your work and your passion as hobby.
Great, man. I really appreciate it. Then let's keep in touch, and I'll let you know whenever our projects here going English. So yeah, yeah.
What will you say, man?
Excited to tag along your journey and to see where your channel goes. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you for watching Tavern Talks. This episode, we had a wonderful guest. Have a great day.
Bye.